What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Hopefully you're having a good Thanksgiving today, whether you're getting started to eat now or you finished up and you're kind of relaxing on the couch looking for stuff to watch. We're going to have some fun today because there's some very interesting news. One, we got sales figures back for Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and no surprise, it topped the charts, as you would assume, but Battlefront 2 is also in there, so we can see how they did on their debut week with all the controversy in Japan. But let's get started today, guys. So Media Create sales come out every week like we talk about them in Japan, and we get a good look at how things really happened throughout that week, whether it's debut week for something like Pokemon, Battlefront 2, etc. We get actual numbers, something we don't get from the MPEs or even the UK sales chart unless PRHC tells us about it. So let's take a look here at the top games over at Media Create, starting with, of course, Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. They decided to just throw that into one SKU, 667,439 units between the two. And then right below that, you're going to see number 2, Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon Veteran Trainers Dual Pack. That is kind of an edition you could buy that just had both of them in there. So you could essentially either buy both together or you could just buy this dual pack. And that, with the Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon and the dual pack included together, according to PR that came out, it topped near 1.2 million units sold in its first 3 days, is what this would be tracking, I assume, 3 days. So, yes, that is a lot of Pokemon moving in Japan. 1.2 million. That's only Japan, so that doesn't include anywhere else in the world, including the States, where I'm sure it did really well. It really shows how powerful Pokemon is when it comes to selling units. Below that, Super Mario Odyssey still sticking in there at number 3, 62,000 units sold. That brings its total up to 714,000 units in Japan. That should also tell you how powerful Pokemon is if it eclipsed over a million in the first 3 days. There's Battlefront 2 on the PS4, number 4, 38,769. Guys, that is a massive drop off considering the original Battlefront debuted at near 130,000 units. So massive drop off. Just about 90,000 units are missing from this debut compared to the last Battlefront's debut, and that is bad. Let's go down from there. Call of Duty WW2 at number 5, 34,000. We're just going to start going down here. Splatoon 2, and then below that, Dragon Quest X. Yes, that did come out that same week. The Wii U topped any other version. Isn't that crazy? Dragon Quest X on the Wii U, 24,836. The Switch below that, 18,444. There's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And then Dragon Quest X on the PS4 was actually sold less than the Wii U and the Switch version at 13,657 units. And there's a lot to take from this game chart here. One, Pokemon is insane. It sells crazy numbers in Japan, which makes you wonder what's going to happen when it comes out on the Switch. The first home console version of Pokemon, the mainline Pokemon series, coming to the Switch. That's going to be a very big deal in Japan. I could see it easily eclipsing this number just because of the build-up. I mean, keep in mind, this is Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It's really, I guess, a sequel to Sun and Moon, so it's not even like a new generation or anything like that was. So this shows you how powerful, how alive Pokemon still is with people in Japan. So expect massive Switch numbers when that comes out. Expect it to move crazy amounts of Switch systems. But on the flip side, let's talk about Battlefront 2 for a second. We saw it stumble heavily in the UK, stumbles massively in Japan. I mean, 90,000 or so units down from the first one's debut. This is a big stumble right here, and it really shows that something is causing these not to sell, and we all like to assume it's the controversy. Maybe not that people were put off from the first one because the first one was a shell that then made you buy more DLC to make it complete. No, this has to be from the controversy. There's no way. I could expect it to be down 30,000 units. Like, I would have expected this to at least almost touch 100,000 units in its first week in Japan. No, not even close. So now we're going to see if it has a tail of any kind, right? Like where maybe it tails off. Or is this just going to keep dropping? Is this going to, next week, are we going to see 10,000 units and then slowly it just falls right off the charts, which is terrible. That is really bad. This is a game, guys, that's supposed to top 14 million by the end of March. I don't see that happening. Expectations are not going to be met, and everyone's going to be going back to the drawing board, including Disney. Let's move over to the systems here. The Switch actually saw a bit of a jump, about 7,000 units up from last week, topping at almost 87,000, 1 unit shy of 87,000 units. The 3DS below that, of course, that was helped by Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, 43,480. The PS4, that includes the Pro and the Slim PS4, and I assume any base models that are left over, 26,302. The Vita right below that at standard 3,000 or so. The Xbox One was a big jump here here at 247. Now, here's the thing. That I say that's a big jump over their normal numbers, but that is actually a massive drop off from 1,465. But of course, if you compare that to its normal number of 100, that is a big jump. However, big drop off here by the Xbox One, all the way down to 247. So that shows the Xbox One X is not going to continue the sales that most of us saw last week at that 1,400 mark. The PS3 46, and then the Wii U below that at 43. So once again, big numbers for the Switch. I think they're starting to figure out their supply issues. Of course, Japan is still heavy in demand right now, so they're still looking for Switches. I assume these are still massive sellouts. And here's the thing. The Switch at this point right now, 2.25 million units sold. It's going to top 3 million by the end of the year. I'm going to see some big numbers, I have a feeling, in December for the weeks, and it's going to come right up, I think, against that 3 million mark, which is a massive win. By the end of their full fiscal year, absolutely 3 million units, no questions asked, and that is massive, because that means that they will have eclipsed more than PS4's entire lifetime sales in 1 year. So very interesting here, very interesting indeed. The 3DS still very powerful, even though when Pokemon does leave the 3DS, expect that to pretty much die off completely in Japan, and everyone from that massive 23 million user base, guys, on the 3DS, a lot of people have 3DSs, will then move to the Switch. Overall, it was a big week for the Switch, for the 3DS, for Pokemon. Not so much for Battlefront 2, though. Man, that is such a massive disappointment for Battlefront 2 so far. It's not going to top the NPDs. Call of Duty is going to beat it on the NPD chart at this point from what I'm seeing everywhere else, and that is a big disappointment. Next up, let's talk about a demo. You remember those? Remember how you would download a demo to see if you like a game? We used to even get little discs in magazines and stuff. Remember, like the Xbox One? I remember getting that all the time. The PC Gamer. Remember all of those different demos you could play? I miss those, don't you? Well, it looks like Wolfenstein 2 is going to be putting out a demo. In fact, it's out right now. You can go download the first level of Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, and try it out. See if it's something you like. Now, we've heard from a lot of different places, myself included, it's a good game. It's a lot of fun. If you want a good shooter, it's a good time. I'd say it's worth a pickup, but just in case, maybe you want to try it out, see how the movement feels, see how the shooting mechanics are and everything, you can go download the first demo right now. That's right, on the PC, PS4, and Xbox One. It's up for download. It'll give you the whole first level, and if you like it, you can continue that save file. You can actually purchase right there and start playing through the rest of the game with that same save file. I like this move. I want to see more games do this. Now, I do think this is probably because the sales have been down with this game, which is very odd, because all we see are people complaining about loot boxes and forced online and forced in multiplayer. This game didn't do any of that, but it's not selling that well, and it's kind of a shame. I think that's what this demo is for. I do hope it gets a massive second win when the Switch version comes out. I do think the Switch audience will support this, because they want to show third parties, especially companies like Bethesda who make these very large games, hey, you might want to start checking out the Switch audience, because they're the ones who are going to probably start backing you. Very interesting to see any sales numbers that Bethesda does release when they do their quarterly reports for this game. I do think it's going to be disappointing. Either way, go try out the demo. It's certainly worth a buy if you like it. Now I'm going to jump over real quick to a program we haven't talked about in a while, and that's Rainway. Now we're still waiting for any other information, whether it's a release on the other systems or a Switch release date, just release dates in general, like hard dates. But they keep Andrew Sampson keeps showing us stuff that's pretty awesome. For one, a lot of people want Cuphead on the Switch. Well, he was actually playing it on his Switch the other day on Twitter, showing Cuphead running great through Rainway on the Nintendo Switch, while Microsoft and even the company, MDHR, is saying it's never going to go to the Switch because it is a lifetime Microsoft exclusive. Well, there appear to be ways around that. It seemed to be working fine. I still need to try it myself to see how the input lag is. However, it's very exciting, and some of the possibilities here are very interesting to see. Things like Cuphead or any other game that can map to a controller for the Switch you can play. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I'd be very welcomed here with my Switch and my computer. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a game that I think they're doing things right, and a lot of people seem to agree with that. They don't do these microtransactions. They don't even do it full price. They're trying to revolutionize something called the AAA indie game, and that, of course, is Hellblade. Now, when this game first came out, it was a $30 game, but it didn't really look like a $30 game. It looked like a AAA game, but to them, they were their own studio, they published it themselves, and they didn't have this big publisher hanging over their head telling them what to do. And it was a big deal for them, so much so that they shot developer diaries pretty much every week, I think. They're up to episode 30, and this was pretty much their season finale. It's their last diary. And they decided to tell us that, hey, after 3 months, way ahead of schedule, by the way, because they had it scheduled for 6 months, after 3 months, the game has now sold over 500,000 units, and it is now profitable, which is amazing because we hear companies like EA and 2K and other places that seem to be using microtransactions despite selling 14 million copies. Now, according to the Hellblade developers, it was a big effort to get this game out, but it was controlled. It was about 20 people over 4 years and cost about $13 million, which, after doing some of the math for equipment and other stuff, that's about right, considering a piece that was done over at Kotaku by Jason Schreier talks about how usually employees over in San Francisco or in Silicon Valley, generally each person accounts for $10,000 a month. If they have 20 people over four years, that almost comes out to $10 million. And of course, they have extra money for publishing it and all this other stuff, expenses. That seems about right. And they made all of that back, and now they're just profitable. Now, whenever they sell a copy, it's profitable. So that tells me it might go on sale even at some point. But this is really cool. This is a big deal because this is going to open the door, as they say, to kind of revolutionize the AAA indie game, a game that they publish themselves. They don't have to rely on an EA or a WB or I don't know, Ubisoft or any of these other places that come in and will help publish your game. And then they'll tell you some things you should do to fix it up and stuff. They did this on their own, which is awesome. They've priced it fairly. And they didn't try to put in these microtransactions or anything else. They gave you a game at a fair price, and they're making money. Everyone's happy. So I hope other indie games start doing stuff like this, because according to them, they shot these developer diaries to try to give people a roadmap, right? To kind of get to the finish line where you self-publish your game, you develop it all yourself, and then you put it out, and then you make money much faster. You know, you don't have to sell millions and millions of copies, although I do think when it's all said and done, this will at least be a 1 million copy seller, which will be great for them. It shows that you don't need, 14 million copies. You barely need 1 million copies if you do it right and you don't spend obscene amounts of money making games. Make a good game, right? You don't have to market it that hard. As long as it's good, everyone else will market it for you. Do you see how Hellblade popped up everywhere because reviewers were saying it was a good game? Guess what? That's all you need. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Helps in the search algorithm and all that good stuff. Also, make sure you subscribe if you enjoy getting gaming news every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. We're here every morning. Also, let me know what you think about the sales charts over in Japan. Do you think Battlefront 2, do you think this happened because of the controversy, or do you think people are just sick of the first one? They didn't like it as much in Japan and other places in the world. Maybe they felt cheated after having to buy all that DLC. I don't know. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great Thanksgiving. Eat a lot of food, hang out with family, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.